Hello, I'm Andy Ford. We work hard to make our schools and the children we serve a priority. But Florida's education accountability system has gone horribly wrong. Testing, not the children, has become the focus, and these flawed standardized tests have outraged parents. This testing craze has disturbing consequences for some of the children we serve. The Florida Alternative Assessment is one such test. Its seriously flawed use must be stopped. After all, our kids are more than a test.
Meet Audrey.
I don't want you to look at me. I want you to look at the picture that's the same as the book.
Audrey is a special student at a special school, Karen M. Siegel Academy, who has very special needs.
From the office staff to the teachers to the paras, everyone's heart is engaged with the students in this school. When Audrey first came here, it was a gift to both of us.
The value that I see in Karen Siegel Academy, they are more concerned about the capability of how Joya functions, so they're more on an individual basis.
The personal work very hard to try to get our kids first team healthy, comfortable, and try to make them do their best.
The reason I chose this school is for the teachers, and also my ability to come in and watch my child and then learn what's going on, his goals, and then go home and continue it. My child, the teachers are the key to my child's success here.
All Florida students must participate in the state's assessment and accountability system. It's the law. The Florida legislature realizes that the FCAT is not appropriate for every student, so they implemented the Florida Alternative Assessment.
Only 1% of the total population, school population, is even allowed to be on an alternate assessment. That's a pretty small group of students. And perhaps 75 to 80% of those students, this assessment is fine for. It seems to be, from what I understand from my colleagues, appropriate. But here again, when you go down to, when you get involved with students with multiple and complex disabilities, they are different than the other students who take the Florida Alternate Assessment.
First, I'm going to read you a story.
Students with complex disabilities such as Lewis, who is cortically blind and in a persistent vegetative state. The Florida Alternative Assessment, or FAA, is a rigid standardized test. Notice, it requires the teacher to read to a student who can't understand and show drawings to a student who can't see.
My main concern is that it's not an appropriate assessment for our population, and that I feel like it's disrespectful to the student in many cases. And I had a parent ask me, well, how do I prepare my child for this test? And it's like, well, there's not a way to prepare.
Joya, here are 2 pictures. Where did they pick Grandma up? Let go.
The FAA measures basic academic skills, such as reading and math, but many students at Karen Siegel Academy are unable to master those skills.
My sister is 16 years old. Her cognitive level is about birth to 3. So I feel like they're asking very abstract questions or very high-level questions, and she needs to be tested more on like a functional, concrete scale.
Which one is different from a square?
Questions must be asked of children who are unable to communicate answers.
I don't think that the Florida Alternate Assessment is respectful. It's asking her stuff that's not accurate to her. It's not geared towards her or what she knows. It's disrespectful.
Sometimes Mrs. Vasquez isn't at home on Saturday, so she leaves the $10 in an envelope.
I just saw my child, Joseph, be tested, and I was walking out to my car, and I realized that I was so worked up inside and so frustrated because there was zero correlation between what he was tested on and what my child knows and what he's learning. And it doesn't represent the thriving environment here at Karen Siegel. And it appalled me that my teacher's salary could be tied to that someday. It made me sick that we're throwing money towards this test that is irrelevant. Zero correlation.
While the FA continues to assess students on subjects beyond their grasp, it also produces a report that is meaningless to parents and teachers.
I was disappointed because you cannot measure a kid like my son with his disability. It's very stressful for him.
Since we started with this alternate assessment approach, I really did my best to embrace it, to get involved with it, to talk to the teachers about it. I would even show teachers, like, this is what your students made this year and this is what they made the next year. And then when I began to see how it reflected no learning gains for over 75% of our student body, we have about 16% of the students at Karen Siegel that do okay, the rest of them don't, that I quit doing it because it was so degrading and disrespectful to the teachers.
As a result of my frustration with the black and white testing of things that are irrelevant to my child, I checked the box that said I no longer want my child to be tested by the Florida Alternative Assessment. No longer will my child be put in a wheelchair for an hour or whatever it takes, read inane stories, taken choices away. To me, that doesn't show my Joseph.
It's not testing what she really knows. She could be learning other things. She could be learning her alphabet, which is what she's still working on at 9 years old. She could learn, work on better head control.
An alternative way to assess the children is already in place, and the teachers and parents love it.
I would like the lawmakers to know that, and the Department of Education to know that there are other ways to measure student progress for the most severely complex, and a more fair and just way to do that.
The individual educational plan is developed with the classroom teacher, the parent, occasionally the school psychologist, depending upon what testing they've just had done, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, and then any other specialists that need to be invited. And this team develops the goals and objectives for that student for the next year based on where they are and where they need to go.
This to me is like the People magazine of my child. This is the daily agenda. And in here it tells me everything I need to know. It tells me what they're studying or what their theme of the month is. It sends home his artwork. It tells me how his attitude was, what he liked today, what he ate today. It even tells me if he poops, so I know what to expect later in the day. This to me is far more valuable, to know exactly what my child is doing.
If the FA continues to judge schools like the Karen M. Siegel Academy and teachers like Kathleen Knoll, other schools and special needs teachers may cease to exist.
If we use this assessment in the state of Florida to evaluate the students and the teachers, the end result could be that Karen M. Siegel Academy would be dissolved.
The result of the Florida Alternate Assessment does not make me feel valuable as a teacher. It's because the lack of common sense.
The teachers here are passionate about what they do, and to test a kid that doesn't know how, cannot correctly answer a test, it shouldn't base what the teacher is going to be paid. It shouldn't base off this test what my daughter knows, because it doesn't.
Less than a month from videotaping at Karen M. Siegel Academy, under Florida Statute 1008.212, Polk County applied that 8 students with extreme disabilities be exempt from this assessment, including Joya and Lewis. All 8 were denied by the Florida Department of Education, citing there is insufficient evidence that the assessment results would reflect the students' impaired sensory, manual, or speaking skills rather than the students' achievement of the benchmarks assessed by the FA. The Florida Alternative Assessment is a badly flawed system lacking common sense. Its continued use will impair the development of children and ruin the careers of teachers. Is the FA accountability or lunacy?